Alright. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 137, and today's video is late. Not because I was overwhelmingly sick, still not feeling great. But that's kind of a state of being for me right now, so it is what it is. The reason that today's video is so late is because yesterday I spent the entirety of the time I was out of my bed playing D&D Online. Because right now they have a thing where if you log in and you go to this dragon in Eberron, you can pick one of the expansions, like the big expansions that you normally have to pay like 30 or 40 bucks for. You can pick one of those and get it for free. So I got the Isle of Dread content. And the interesting thing about it is the original Isle of Dread was a series of adventures for original D&D. But this version of Isle of Dread loops in Vecna, which I found interesting because of the most recent book that came out. And it's actually a really fun adventure series. So it's not what I want to talk about today, though. What I would like to talk about today is something I don't get to talk about a ton on here, but it's a huge passion of mine. For anyone that doesn't know, I am a classically trained instrumentalist. I started playing the saxophone in the 5th grade. I started on alto, and then I went to tenor, and played tenor through most of my career. I eventually picked up clarinet as a secondary instrument for jazz in particular. And then in college, I got to play bari sax. And I took traditional instruction for, what is that? At least like 10 or 12 years, somewhere in there. And continue playing after that. Like, I still theoretically can play. I just haven't taken my sax out in years. But the last time I took it out, it all came back very quickly. Except for my armature. I had to work on that pretty hard. In addition to that, I'm also a classically trained vocalist. I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. All right. So I'm a classically trained vocalist. I took individual. Come on. Nope, doesn't want. Anytime I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop so I can sneeze. No. I took individual instruction for like 5 or 6 years from my first voice teacher was actually a professional opera singer. She used to work in there's a place in Wisconsin called the Skylight Opera, and so she was one of their operatic sopranos there. And her husband was also a professional opera singer, in addition to being a school teacher as well. And so later on, and he was a bass. He was a bass like me. And so later on, I actually got instruction from him. He was my voice teacher for, I think, like a semester or two, which was absolutely phenomenal because I had been taught by a soprano, and she was still absolutely phenomenal at what she did. But just having someone who sings the same part as you do was really, really nice. And then when I got to college, I had, I think, 2 years of instruction from a guy that actually. We actually went to the same church, and I didn't realize when I applied to the school that I did and I got in that he was also a voice teacher there, and he had a doctorate in something involving music, and he was brilliant. He taught me so much. Like, I learned a lot in high school, but I really learned a lot in college and learned how to become the vocalist that I am today. So the reason I'm giving you this background, saw a video recently on Miss Mojo, which annoys me that is the way they've decided to kind kind of brand themselves as Miss Mojo. It's Mojo for girls. And yet, at least the majority of the movies that I watch, or videos that I watch on Miss Mojo, are things about singing and musicals and theater. Which is not a girly thing. Like, there's lots of very, very talented male vocalists, and Broadway has tons of male leads, so I don't know why. Anyway, they did a video recently where it was something like top 30 actors who surprised us that they could sing, or something similar to that. And the first like 20 to 25 of them I don't want to say that they're not good vocalists, because they are. But the things that they used to kind of show that, yeah, they surprised us how good they were singing, were not difficult pieces. The examples that they were giving were not showing off real mastery of their voice. They were just singing. And over the years of being a trainer, one of the things that I've noticed, especially during the Twitch Sings era, is how many people simply don't understand that singing is not a particularly difficult skill to pick up. Now, if you want to be like Ariana Grande or Lady Gaga or something like that, which one of my favorite things about Lady Gaga is the fact that she's an extremely skilled vocalist. Like, she has unbelievably incredible control over her vocals. But because the songs that she makes are extremely kind of experimental, and a lot of the point of her music is kind of the statement that she's making with it, as opposed to someone like Ariana Grande, where a lot of her music is intentionally written to showcase the immense amount of control that she has and the incredible amount of skill that she has. So I think a lot of people kind of don't consider them on the same level, because Ariana Grande is constantly showing these unbelievable runs she can do with her voice, and doing these extreme jumps in pitch and things like that. All these things that to someone that's actually trained in singing are extremely difficult. And Lady Gaga, a lot of her music, she's really not doing that. She does a lot of belting, which audiences really, really love belting, but again, is not, with a few rare exceptions, is not an incredibly difficult skill to learn. It's mostly about understanding the mechanics behind the belting and doing it in a healthy way. But once you learn to do that, you can do any belting that you want. And it only really gets impressive when you get kind of an Idina Menzel kind of person, where she can belt notes that you shouldn't be able to belt. Like, there's a range for belting that most singers will go, yeah, these are the notes that you should be able to belt. And if you're really good, it might go to here. And Idina Menzel is like way off here on Mount Everest. So I just wanted to kind of talk about the idea that, again, a lot of people think singing is this unbelievably difficult skill to pick up, and are always so impressed that these actors who are already doing the most impossible thing in the world of being actors can also sing. And it's really not this statement that they think it is. Now, there are a few people on that list that are extremely skilled singers. And then there are a few people like, who was it? Eddie Redmayne is a relatively skilled singer. I would not put him in the same kind of echelon as someone like Sutton Foster or something like that. But he's still a very skilled singer and vocalist. But the example that they gave for him was the Les Mis movie. And if anyone didn't see the Les Mis movie that was put out years ago, Hugh Jackman played Jean Valjean. It was absolutely loaded to the gills with big Hollywood names, a few of which people didn't realize they could sing, and a few more of which people realized afterwards they still couldn't sing. Russell Crowe, you're a wonderful person. You were not a fantastic Javert. And this is coming from a fellow Javert. The thing about Les Mis is Les Mis is an extremely vocally taxing show for a number of different reasons. One of which being it's technically an opera. A lot of people go, no, it's a musical. It's not an opera. No, there's no spoken dialogue in the entire show. Every single line is sung. So it is by definition an opera because it's also not sacred. And sacred meaning it's not based on some sort of religious text. A sacred opera is called an oratorio, which I used to do oratorio work. That's one of the things when you're a classically trained vocalist, you will sing oratorio arias. Like that's how it works, especially for basses, because in opera, we just really don't get that many good arias. Whereas oratorio work, there's just a little bit more. So anyway, Les Mis is an extremely physically demanding, technically demanding show, and it was filmed in a really, really dumb, bad way. Normally for movie musicals, the way that it is filmed is the cast will actually record all the songs in recording booths and actually like basically record the cast album. And then they will film the scenes where they're singing them and they will play the music and the actors will either lip sync or they might be singing live, but the recording is not they're not recording sound for that. They already have the sound for that scene recorded, and so the actors get to really focus on emoting and all the other stuff that you have to do when you're not singing. For this one, they decided the director decided that he wanted all the singing to be done live, and in order to do that, what he would do is he would take these camera angles where the camera was literally like the focus of the camera was like 5 inches from their face. I don't know how close the actual camera was because zoom lenses exist, but the camera was always here, and so most of the screen was like the head and maybe a little bit of the chest and neck. And that was all you got. And the reason they did that is they would take their boom mic and they would put it like right here. So it's just barely off screen, kind of like what I do here. And it allowed them to pick up everything that the actor was doing. And unfortunately, it didn't turn out great. Because making a film is significantly different than like running a show on Broadway, where Broadway, you have to do the first scene first and the second scene second. You have to go through the entire show. It's one of the reasons why Les Mis is such a difficult show to do, is because it's a 3-hour long show, depending on how quickly people are picking up their lines and how quick scene changes are. It's a long show. And especially if you're one of the leads, you are singing the majority of that time. Like Valjean sings for almost 3 hours. Well, I guess maybe close to maybe like 2 hours. But he's in a lot of the scenes. And anytime you're on stage, you're singing. And it's a remarkably... And the parts themselves are not easy parts. Like, they're very technically demanding and everything like that. But in the movie, he just really encouraged the actors to get into the emotion of it, which I'm a huge believer in. I'm a believer in sacrificing vocal quality for emotion because it makes the song that much more powerful. It didn't work. And if you see, like, A Heart Full of Love with Eddie Redmayne, it's just, it doesn't work. Because Heart Full of Love is this really beautiful duet between Cosette and Marius, which is the role that Eddie Redmayne played. And the subtext behind it is this is like the first time they're meeting, and he is so awestruck with her beauty that he's like, "Oh, this is going oh so bad. I don't even know your name." And so he's kind of stumbling over himself, and he's got almost like a Hugh Grant kind of bumbling British. Oh, hello, that's perfectly fine for the character, but when you're also trying to make sure your vocal mix is good with the other person, you're doing it live and everything like that. It just didn't come off particularly well. It didn't show really any kind of mastery of his voice or anything like that. And that kind of shows up over and over and over again. Like the big song for Marius is "Empty Chairs at Empty Tables," and it's not a bad performance. It's a perfectly fine performance, but it wasn't the amazing, mind-blowing performance that people were expecting. And apparently, according to Eddie Redmayne, it took him tons and tons of takes to get the stuff down. Because again, you don't have. By the time you get to Empty Chairs and Empty Tables, you've been on stage for about, like, the show's been going on for like an hour and a half, 2 hours easily. And so you've seen the emotional growth of your character, and the emotional growth of the show, from Valjean in prison to Valjean the mayor to running away to the start of the revolution to the barricade scene, and Marius being taken away by Valjean and the whole interaction with Javert, and then, you know, that's near the end of the show, and he's mourning the fact that he is the only survivor from the students' revolution. It's this incredibly intense scene, and again, on stage, you just saw all your friends less than an hour ago. And when you're doing a movie, you know, it might be that you're filming that scene before all the barricade scenes, or it could have been like 3 weeks ago that you filmed those scenes. And you're only filming generally a couple minutes at a time. So, yeah, anyway. So getting back to the idea of all these actors that can also sing. Singing is not a particularly difficult skill to learn. There are some people, they're extremely rare, but there are some people that are what's called tone deaf. And a lot of people that claim that they're tone deaf aren't. They just don't have particularly good control over their voice. Actual tone deaf people, I think one of my friends is actually tone deaf. And the reason I think this, the easiest way to tell if someone is tone deaf is if you have them try to sing a song. Instead of their pitch going up and down, their voice will get louder and softer. And they generally will stay on the same or a very similar pitch. They'll have a very limited range. And you'll just hear them get louder when the notes go up and get softer when the notes go down. Because technically that's kind of how our ears hear it. We have an easier time hearing high frequencies than we do hearing low frequencies. So an actual tone deaf person, someone that actually cannot hear tone or can't differentiate it very well, simply will be incapable of reproducing it because they literally don't hear the notes. They hear differences in dynamics and stuff like that and rhythms and that, but they just don't understand, you know, the differences in pitch. It's an extremely rare condition. The vast majority of people that claim that they're tone deaf simply have not learned how to control their voice correctly, and may not be particularly adept at singing. You'll see me use the term skilled very often, and I generally won't use the term talented very often. And the reason why is talent is something that you are born with, and it can be very useful. It's effectively a natural aptitude towards something. But talent is not the be-all, end-all. And simply because you are talented at something does not mean that you're actually going to be good at it. And something that I've seen quite often is people that are naturally talented at something, because it's something that goes easy for them, they won't learn how to do the work for the not fun stuff. Like playing an instrument. Everybody thinks, playing an instrument, oh yeah, you're in these cool bands and you're playing for. No, you want to know what actually playing an instrument is? It's doing things like an hour's worth of scale work, where literally all you do for an hour is you play all of your different scales on that instrument. It's unbelievably boring. Or rehearsals. Yeah, rehearsals. Everyone gets together and they get to play the songs. Nope. A good rehearsal is you play the same, 6 bars of a song 20 times to work it out. And then you choose another 6 to 8 bars of the song and work on that. And it's unbelievably boring and annoying, and you never get that resolution of the song ending until the very end of the rehearsal when we go, okay, let's try the whole thing now. That's what makes a good musician in general, whether you're an instrumentalist, a vocalist, whatever, is the ability to sit down and do the same thing over and over and over again to eventually build the muscle memory to do it without thinking. And people that are naturally talented a lot of times don't learn those skills, and so they will do very, very well to a point. But eventually all the talent in the world cannot turn you into someone like Ariana Grande or Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift. They also had to spend a lot of time working on their voice and learning to get the control that was necessary to do the insane things that they can do. And so I tend to see talent a lot of times as a detriment versus a benefit. Because again, it gets in people's way more often than not. Unless you're a very humble person who's willing to put in the work, which again, there's lots of people like that. But I tend to see a lot more talented people that just think that, well, I'm naturally good at this, so I don't have to actually do anything. FYI, I was one of those people for a long time, and then I picked up an instrument. So when I talk about, the idea of being skilled, the actual skills to be a good singer, not to be a virtuoso, but just to be a good singer, is unbelievably simple. It is probably one of the easiest skills in the world to learn, because the most valuable thing you can learn when you are learning how to sing is to relax and get out of your own way. What I mean by that, your body is designed to make noise. Like your entire vocal structure is designed to make noise. Like that is the entire purpose of it. And it has particularly been designed, and whether you want to attribute that to evolution or some sort of intelligent designer, the end result is the same. It has particularly been designed to make sounds that we like. There's arguments from an evolutionary standpoint as to why that would be beneficial. There's arguments to be made from an intelligent design standpoint of why that would be beneficial. Whichever camp you're in, you are designed to make pleasant sounding noise. It's what it is. And the reason it's pleasant sounding is because we've realized that we can make those noises and we like those noises. Like it's all interlinked. So what generally happens to people that are not really strong singers is their fundamental mechanics tend to be poor. And one of the most common is you will see someone like, I really like, it was really, really big in the 90s. All female vocalists had the same timbre in their voice. If you're not familiar with the term timbre, it's a musical term spelled Timbre, but pronounced timbre. It's a musical term that basically describes the kind of feeling and the color of the sound. As weird as that sounds, it's kind of just the feeling that the sound invokes. And so there was a very particular timbre that 90s pop stars had that still exists to this day. Like you'll still see it in a lot of female pop stars. But it's this, and it's designed to be very, very sexy. Like if you listen to like early Britney Spears, it is the most obvious right there. My loneliness is killing me. Yeah, yeah, I must confess. And that particular style of singing uses a little bit of what's called vocal fry. And vocal fry is actually a really fascinating phenomenon, because what it is you actually have effectively two sets of vocal cords. And they're not actually called chords, they're called folds. But your primary vocal folds, which I can't remember the technical terms, but I have a friend who's a speech language pathologist. She can tell you all this stuff and all the cool terms and everything. The primary ones are the ones that most people hear. That is what the vast majority of the sound coming out of your mouth comes from these, and the way that they work is you have muscles around your larynx, and what they do is they tense those vocal folds, so as air runs past it, they vibrate at particular frequencies. The tighter they are pulled, the higher the frequency. And everyone will have kind of a natural resonance that they speak in. This is my natural resonance. It's relatively low because I have a very low voice. Your alternate vocal folds, are sometimes called the false vocal folds, are another set that aren't generally used anywhere near as much. But as you get lower, and lower, eventually your primary vocal folds just can't get loose enough. Because again, tighter means higher frequency, looser means lower frequency, and that's when your false vocal folds start kind of coming into play. And when they vibrate, they give off this really weird kind of gravelly sound. And we refer to that in music as vocal fry. That's when you get things like this. This is mostly my false vocal cords, or folds. Excuse me. And when you look at people like Jeff Castellucci, he has learned not only to allow his false vocal folds to resonate, but he's learned how to control it to a point where he can sing these unbelievably low notes very, very clearly, very, very accurately, where when I use my false vocal folds, it just really kind of sounds like I'm demon possessed. And it doesn't always, like, I can get a little bit of the vocal fry, but it's a very difficult thing to do, and to do it in a healthy manner is really, really difficult, because when your false vocal folds are going, your regular, primary, whatever they're called, are also just kind of sitting there, and a lot of times they can actually rub against each other, which can cause abrasions, which can actually damage your vocal cords. Miley Cyrus actually permanently damaged her voice because of just singing very, very poorly. And now she said in interviews she effectively had to relearn how to sing after, I think she might have had surgery. It used to be decades ago. If your vocal cords rubbed enough, you would get what was called vocal nodules, which is basically these little kind of sores on your vocal cords. Similar to anything else that if you rub it too much, eventually a sore forms. No. Stop it. And that was effectively a death sentence for most vocalists, because the surgery to have them removed and fixed would generally permanently alter your voice. It's what happened to Julie Andrews. She was forced to have surgery on her vocal cords, and they were permanently damaged, and she will never be able to sing the way that she used to be able to sing, because her vocal cords have physically changed. She's regained some of her vocal prowess, but she's still not the amazing vocalist that she used to be. Same thing kind of happened to Miley Cyrus, where she had surgery. However, the surgery's gotten a lot better, and there are actually really big name artists that have gotten vocal nodules because touring is horrible on your voice, and have been able to completely regain it. But going back to my thing, a lot of people think that they're bad vocalists because they try to imitate a style of singing that is not natural to them, and then it strains their voice and it makes it more difficult for them to sing. They just go, I can't do it. Another one that's really, really common is the kind of breathy singing that you hear. Again, I tend to picture it a little bit more with female vocalists than male vocalists. But they have it for male vocalists too. But it's just kind of, yeah, babe, so great. That kind of breathiness. That is technically bad singing, because what that kind of hissing sound is air is leaking through your vocal cords without actually interacting with them. And so that means that you're not tensing things correctly. Or what might be happening is you're tensing it so much that the vocal cords themselves are actually like doing this and creating a gap where that hissing sound is coming from. Now, some people naturally have a voice that's just how their voice works. And so those people become really famous singers and have this incredible iconic style because that's the natural way that their voice works. And again, the key to good singing is just allowing your natural voice to come out. But a lot of times people think, well, I want to sound like this person because it's so cool. And it's like, that's absolutely fantastic. That's not what your voice sounds like. And I can, through, again, decades of training, I can make myself sound like a lot of different voice types. But I've learned to do it in the healthiest way I can. And I also know when I need to stop to prevent vocal damage. Most beginning musicians and beginning vocalists don't understand that part, and they just think, well, that's what it's supposed to sound like. So the actual secret to good music, going back to the thing that your body is designed to make good things, the more you tense everything, the more you try to force your voice out, the worse it will sound. 100% of the time, it will never sound good, and you will start doing damage to your voice. The best way to sing is when you are singing, it should sound relatively similar to your speaking voice, with a few rare exceptions. Once you start doing falsetto stuff for guys and head voice stuff for girls, that's a completely different way to use your voice, and so it won't sound identical to your speaking voice, but it's still going to be relatively similar. Like, when I sing something like, Maria, I just met a girl named Maria, and suddenly I found how wonderful a sound can be. It sounds very similar to my normal, natural resonance. Even if I go into kind of something outside my normal thing, like, Maria, 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 Maria. And I have not warmed up today, so that was not particularly good. But you can hear the natural resonance of my voice no matter what part I'm singing. Like, I can even do things like, let's open up a restaurant in Santa Fe. Sunny Santa Fe would be nice. Let's open up a restaurant in Santa Fe and leave this to the roaches and mice. Even when I'm jumping octaves and things like that, you can still hear the natural timbre of my voice. And the lower I get, the kind of natural vocal fry that I have from just having a low voice will play out quite often. Especially if I do like really, really deep stuff. Like, what was one of the songs I used to do? I used to do, I did this at a jazz song, but it's summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. So yeah, that's what you want to sound like. Listen to your speaking voice and then relax and allow the sound to come out. You have these natural resonating chambers in your body. You have your lungs are natural resonating chamber. There are kind of open spaces in your chest that are natural resonating chambers. In addition to that, your head is a natural resonating chamber. All your sinuses are natural resonating chambers. And so when I was in college, I learned about the idea of their Italian terms, because so much of music is labeled in Italian. My voice teacher taught me about chiaro and scuro. And I don't know if those are the exact words. Those are what I remember him saying. But scuro is the low resonance. It's kind of your chest voice. It's the thing that gives the kind of body to the sound. And when I was working with him, I had great scuro. I had great lower resonance because I was a bass. And that's what I thought I was. And then I started singing higher stuff. Like I did Music of the Night from Phantom of the Opera. And while the Phantom is a baritone, he is a high baritone. Especially if you do like the Phantom of the Opera song. It starts off, what is it? What are the lyrics? What is it called? So it starts off with Christine singing, and then it comes in, sing once again with me, a strange duet. My power over you grows stronger yet. And very, very high. I don't get a lot of scuro in that. And so in order to get the chiaro, the upper resonance, you have to lift what's called your soft palate, which is basically the back part of your throat. If you ever yawn, yawning lifts your soft palate. So a lot of young singers, when they're taught you need to lift your soft palate, they go, just kind of yawn for me, just go. And you feel that lifting in the back of your throat, that's your soft palate. When you lift it, it allows the sound to go up into your nose, into your sinuses here, and you get this much better resonance. And when you're doing something like the Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom of the Opera is there inside your mind. And it's intense. But yeah, so being a good singer, not an extremely good singer, but being a good singer is literally as simple as relax, understand where your voice normally sits, and practice. The most difficult thing to learn is hitting the right pitches, which is literally just practice. Like there's no super simple, easy trick. This trick is what voice teachers don't want you to know, blah, blah. No, there's no easy trick to learning how to sing in tune. There isn't. You just have to do it. It takes practice. And again, that's one of the reasons why some people that are very talented in singing just naturally know how to hit the right pitches. And so they will never learn the work that it takes to really focus on hearing your own voice and ensuring that you're in the right pitch, so that when they do get to a point where they have to be very, very accurate, or they have to do really, really complicated runs, they can't hit the notes right because they never took the time to learn how to sing in tune. It was just something that came naturally to them. I've seen some people say sing with a tuner. Don't do that. It'll drive you nuts. But singing along to another song, and particularly recording yourself while singing along to another song. So you compare your pitch to someone else's pitch. Fun fact: when you when you are close to a pitch but not completely in tune, because sound travels in waves, the closer you are in tune, the more the pitch will modulate. And so you have this weird like sound that you're not making, like it's not a natural, what's called a vibrato. The pitch will just sound very, very weird and kind of wavy. And that means that you're a little bit off tune. And so by doing that over and over again, you eventually train your muscles to hit the right notes. Because at least in Western music is extremely standardized. We use a scale called A440, and what that means is A4, which is effectively kind of the middle A on an 88 key keyboard. The pitch of that is 440 hertz, which is how hertz is how we measure frequency of sound waves. So once you get your muscles used to hitting these very particular notes, for the most part, you just learn to do it. And singing out of tune is actually difficult to do. Like, it's physically painful because, again, the sound modulates and it hurts your voice when the sound is like going, and it's not supposed to do that. So once you get close to it and you understand how to make the adjustments, you make the adjustments naturally. It's just forcing yourself to learn how to hear it and forcing your muscles to learn, okay, this is A, this is B, this is C. And you don't actually have to, like, you don't have to have perfect pitch to know that, oh, every time I sing this note, it's an A or something. Your voice will just naturally go to, you know, if you're singing in this range, your voice knows that this is where the note's supposed to be, because that's where it's been trained to do it over and over and over again. So yeah, like I said, it's just something I don't get to talk about it much, and I've actually done an extremely limited amount of vocal coaching for my friend Jax, and according to her, I really helped her out. I don't know how true that is because Jax is a lovely, wonderful person, and she tends to be very nice to me. But yeah, vocal coaching I'd love to be able to get into that because it was really fun when I was doing it with Jax. And again, the vast majority of what Jax and I worked on was I watched her sing and then I said, "Okay, you are tensing." And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're tensing. You're forcing your sound out, and it's causing the sound to come out poorly, and it's also causing you to hit the wrong notes because you're tensing so much that your muscles are not able to get to the right notes." And so literally we spent like, I don't know, maybe a half an hour or an hour just forcing her to relax while she sang. And that was all it is. And it was a night and day difference in her vocal performance. And she was a very skilled vocalist before I talked to her. But again, a lot of people just don't understand that relaxing and allowing your natural voice to come out. Does that mean that you're not going to sound like the person that you're trying to imitate? Absolutely. Because their voice is different than yours, and that's okay. If you get to the point where you become extremely skilled and you can start mimicking other artists' voice without damaging your own, all the power to you. Some people simply can't do that because, again, that takes an immense amount of skill and practice. And when you do it poorly, you become like Miley Cyrus and have to relearn how to sing because she damaged her voice. Or if you're just attempting to force your voice to sound a certain way when it doesn't do that, well, eventually your voice will sound that way. And it will sound that way because you've actually damaged your vocal cords to do that. And once they're damaged, fixing vocal cords, the medicine has gotten a lot better. Fixing vocal cords, still unbelievably difficult. And extremely expensive. So the likelihood of you being able to have vocal cord reconstructive surgery and it actually reverting your vocal cords to what they used to be is slim to none. You only get one set of vocal cords, treat them right, and you are designed to sound pleasant. Even Harvey Fierstein, if you don't know that name, or is that his name? Harvey... Yeah, that's his name. Harvey Fierstein. Harvey Fierstein is a Broadway legend who has what is it called? He has a specific thing that causes him to yeah, here it is. Fierstein's distinctive gravelly voice is a result of an overdeveloped vestibular fold, which is effectively that's the false vocal cords that I was talking about. So he just has an extremely overdeveloped set of false vocal cords or vocal folds. And a lot of people, when they hear him, if you don't know who Harvey Fierstein is, you do. You just don't realize it. He originated the role of Edna on Fiddler, or not Fiddler, on of Hairspray. And he's done a lot of things. If you ever saw Mrs. Doubtfire, he played Robin Williams' character's brother. He's like, "Hi, it's so great to see you. Like, this is what he sounds like." And he is an unbelievably skilled vocalist. Again, he's played Tevye on Fiddler on the Roof. He played Edna Turnblad in Hairspray. He's done so many amazing things on Broadway. He's also what is it? I don't think it's a lyric. He writes books for he writes the books for Broadway shows. And writes the books doesn't mean like he writes he writes the scripts effectively. And he's brilliant at it. He's done so many he's done so many amazing things. Like he did Newsies and that. Anyway, even someone like that, who a lot of people would say, well, no, that's just no. His voice is amazing, and when he uses it in a way, in the way that he wants to use it to sound good, he sounds very good. It's a very distinctive voice. Don't get me wrong, and it may not be for everyone. But he sounds amazing when he sings. He really, really is an extremely skilled vocalist. In addition to being an amazing actor and a wonderful playwright, like he's one of my heroes. He really is. He's just done so much stuff for the world of acting in general. Oh man, he's so cool. One day I will meet Harvey Fierstein, and I will probably sound like a moron when I go. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about some singing stuff because, again, it's one of the things that upsets me so much is there's so many people that like, well, I can't sing. Yes, you can. You currently cannot sing well, which is perfectly fine. There's a lot of people that can't sing well. Some of them have music careers. Some of them get cast in Les Mis and then do a wonderful acting job, but just butcher the vocals on an extremely difficult part. Russell Crowe, you're a phenomenal actor, and I wish maybe you'd been given a different experience for being in a musical, because that wasn't a good one. But yeah, everyone. Well, let me think of the phrase. Anyone can sing. Some people are more naturally gifted towards it than others. And again, there's a very, very rare portion of the population that are actually tone deaf and just do not hear tones the same way that we do. And because they can't hear it, they can't reproduce it. Those are really the only people that quote unquote can't sing. And even then, they can still be involved in music because there's a lot of other ways to be a vocalist that doesn't have to actually match a pitch. We have like spoken word stuff, like what Rex Harrison used to do. We have rapping and that entire kind of rhythmic singing. There's beatboxing now, which is an incredibly difficult skill to learn, but sounds amazing. Like, if you want to be involved in vocal music, there are a lot of different ways you can do it, even if you are tone deaf. But the number of people that are tone deaf is vastly, vastly smaller than people think. most of the people that claim that they're tone deaf just simply don't know how to sing well. And when they have attempted to sing, they have attempted to imitate a voice that is dissimilar enough from their natural voice that it was extremely difficult for them and ended up starting to hurt them to attempt to do it. And so they went, well, it just means that I can't sing. No, you need to figure out what your voice is. You need to figure out what your normal vocal range is and start there and then move on. Like, my comfortable vocal range is baritone bass. But I can sing up to a tenor because I've worked very, very hard to be able to do that. I was, who was it? I was Lieutenant Cable in South Pacific, which is a hell of a role. That's what, younger than springtime, are you? Sweeter than music, are you? Angel and lover, heaven and earth, are you to me? And because I'm not warmed up, it did not sound particularly great. But I have a significantly wider range than kind of your average bass. And it's just been because I've worked very, 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 very hard. It's all skill. And I lose it as often as I have it because I don't keep up with my vocal exercise and things like that. But if you want to be a singer, you can be. It may take more work for you than other people, but you definitely can. So, anyway, that's enough for me today. I will see you guys hopefully again today because, again, this one's like 4 hours late. So, bye-bye.